Welcome to Generation Digital Workforce, the podcast that's here to explore the role of robotic process automation and other digital technologies. Whether you're just getting started or you're looking for advanced strategies and tactics, if you're curious about where human and digital workers are coming together to transform the future of work, then this podcast is for you. All right, let's get into the show.
Welcome to Generation Digital Workforce. I'm your host for today's episode, Lisa Hackbarth, and I am joined today by Chieng, Nick Rudy, and Meredith Clinton from Blue Prism's Innovation Center. I'm so glad to have you guys on the show. And before we jump in, I'd love if you would each introduce yourselves. So why don't we start with you, Chieng?
Sure. Thank you for having me. My name is Chieng. I'm the Global Vice President of the Innovation Center here at Blue Prism. I've been in the software industry a little over 20 years. I've done everything from ERP implementation to being a data scientist. Joined Blue Prism about 3.5-4 years ago, and been an exciting ride to see how automation is disrupting and transforming how we are doing business today. So excited to share what we're doing, specifically around ERP transformation. Nick?
Thank you, Chieng, and thank you, Lisa, for having us. Hello, everyone. My name is Nick Rudy. I am the Technical Innovation Manager for the Innovation Center. I've been hands-on with Blue Prism for the last four years or so, and in other RPA platforms as well. I've been technical most of my life. My role within the Innovation Center is really to take the vision and make it real in some capacity. With that being said, I'll hand it over to Meredith.
Thanks so much, Nick. Yes, we are very excited to be here. My name is Meredith Clinton, and I am the innovation storyteller for Innovation Team. I act as the sales and marketing liaison. My whole background is being very passionate about sales and marketing, and not so technical, but I'm learning.
Amazing. All right. Well, before we jump into the topic, I know that we're going to be kind of digging deep into all of this topic here today. So, Chieng, do you want to maybe give our audience an overview of what we'll be covering today?
Sure. So to start off, describing what the role and responsibility of the Innovation Center, our responsibility is to take a look at the global problems of all kinds of industries and sectors and apply it to leveraging our Blue Prism digital workers to solve those hard to solve billion-dollar problems. And so part of that charter is to take a look at how people and organizations is using their ERP systems today, the SAPs, the Oracles, the legacy green screens of the world, and look at it from a perspective of, could we, in essence, not replace, but augment humans in that process of work? Meaning, could we hire a digital worker specifically to do specific functions inside these ERP systems? So that's one of our major pillars inside the Innovation Center is how do we solve this $2 trillion problem, whether it's system migrations, whether it's just up and maintaining applications, or even facilitating a business process. It is a $2 trillion problem. If we took the whole global ERP applications, services, roll it all into one number, that's the problem we're trying to address and solve.
Perfect. Yeah. And it fits so well with just what we cover in the podcast as a whole as Generation Digital Workforce. There's kind of multiple meanings there, but one of them really is about how there's this new, quote unquote, generation of digital talent that is coming into our workplace. And so how do we integrate that? How do we work with it? How do we manage it? So this is perfect. So I'm excited to jump in. So why don't we start with first, what is the difference between a digital worker and digital talent?
I'll take that one. So when you hire a person today, a human being, they encompass some type of knowledge, experience, even if they're just fresh out of university, they have gained knowledge and experience, a level of competency to perform a job. You then take them through the training process, whether that's through your onboarding exercises, and it may take anywhere from 30 days to a year to train up a human being to do that job and to be very proficient at it. We're taking a unique perspective by saying a digital worker, for lack of better words, has to be trained every single time they are, in essence, brought into your digital environment to do work. We're suggesting that what if we pre-train, give this digital worker some level of expertise, some level of knowledge and competencies to work inside your ERP systems so that you don't have to start from scratch, that they have some inherent knowledge of systems, applications, first name in the field, last names, those type of things. So they can, the digital talent themselves can then be tailored to your environment and making your internal process more efficient, faster. I'm going to let the rest of the team answer that question because I think there's a different, unique perspective with this. So Meredith, you had a great analogy you mentioned a while back around pizzas.
Yes, there is a pizza analogy. So if you look at a digital worker compared to digital talent, a digital worker, when you get this digital worker, you have to sit there and program them. And that means if you have a 200-step process, you have to program them from 1 to 200. And if you think about it in making a pizza, it means it's like a homemade pizza. You have to go out to the grocery store. You have to buy the ingredients. You have to decide to put it together. You have to, mix the tomato sauce, make that, put that together, and then put it in the oven. So when you're talking about what is digital talent, what is the difference in that? Digital talent comes out of the box with already pre-programmed. So instead of having to do steps 1 through 200 to get that digital worker up to speed, digital talent comes with steps 1 through 150 already complete. So you're looking at, okay, 1 to 150 is already complete, and then the company can take it that extra 20, 30, or 50 steps. And so what it does is it shortens the development cycle, just like having a pizza DiGiorno, going to get a frozen one and popping it into the oven. So it's the difference of how you want to attack the work that you're doing. Do you want to have a digital worker and start them from scratch, or can you use digital talent? And what this means for the world, it's completely different. When you look at a company, they really have to look at different tables and ROI models to decide what are they going to digitize, what are they going to automate within their company. And you have to reach a certain ROI, number. Is it 20%? Is it 30%? Is it 3 full-time workers? Is it 5 full-time workers? This turns that upside down on its head. Now you no longer have to look at it just one way and say, okay, if we get a digital worker, we're going to have to develop it this whole time. Now, if you have a pre-trained digital worker and you can cut out 150 steps, what does that do to your ROI table? What it does is it makes it to where you're more able to use a lot more digital workers. You're able to automate more processes because now it's less expensive. It's not going to take you as much development time. And that completely changes the landscape of RPA.
Just to add to that, this pre-built content changes the way that developers function, right? And in one of the estimations that I've given, or one of the examples that I've given, the estimation is that from scratch it would take 6 to 10 business days to build a specific process. Now, if we have 80% of that in pre-built objects already, and we reconstruct that same process, looking at it through the lens of pre-built components, that same process could take somewhere between a day and a half and 2.5 days. And my question back to our RPA, the people, our audience, the people that are running their own RPA COEs, is what could you do with an additional 4 to 8 days? What would your RPA developers be able to accomplish in that time? Because now, like Meredith said, we're changing the game insofar as the return on investment. So back to you, Lisa.
Perfect. Well, now I'm ready for lunch and pizza, right? So, but that's a great analogy, and especially for, I think some of our audience isn't super technical, which is one of the beautiful things about Blue Prism RPA is that you can come in with various backgrounds and still understand it, So for me, translation and pizza, I get it now, then I can go to the store and buy a DiGiorno and maybe add some pepperoncinis on top, and there I've made it custom.
And there's your digital talent, Lisa, right there in that DiGiorno.
I know, I get it now.
Yeah.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
So I think the future around digital talent is really important because it does 2 things. One, yes, it accelerates the automation capability of an organization. It lowers the total cost of the deployment of automations at scale. But the second one is probably more important than just lowering costs. It's actually creating a knowledge library. So in this situation, this means that the expertise, the core competencies, how you run your business has now, quote unquote, been digitized so that you in the future can go back to this catalog of expertise and then lower your risk of a pandemic, social economic breakdowns, so that you can deploy this digital talent anywhere you see fit. So let's say in the future, 5 to 10 years from now, you have this massive library of expertise in taxation, expertise in logistics, expertise in human behavior as it relates to your marketing programs. You can coalesce and take all these things together and then create what I would call the super digital workforce to augment your human beings to helping them run your business more efficiently and more productively. That is the ultimate vision of the future as we look down the lines 18 to 24 months from now.
Great. And then do you guys want to talk about, too, I know that we have some strategies around SAP and how companies are transforming and updating there.
Yeah, so ERP transformation means a lot of things to different people. I think when we specifically looked at this problem, it was obviously it's a $2 trillion business. You can't just come in and just pick and boil the ocean all at once. So we specifically focused on what we call the SAP problem. We all know, based upon the SAP usage and upgrades and roadmaps and things like that, there are migration issues around that. There's run and maintenance issues around that. SAP in itself is a massive system across thousands of applications, interfaces, and things like that. So what we have done specifically around the SAP problem is provide accelerators that has been, quote unquote, pre-trained to run on standard SAP applications. I can hand it off to Nick, and Nick can probably talk more about the technical pieces. But the value point here is that Mr. or a CEO, decision maker, whoever that might be, you can have a digital talent running parts of your SAP for everyday maintenance, paying the bills, running business process, as well as looking at a way to automate the migration process from old to new. So it is a digital talent that's pre-trained to do a multitude of activity, not just one.
And that's a really great point, Chen. We talk about migration because that's the compelling event, right? And that's something that that's what was identified as the original compelling event. And now that deadline's been pushed back to 2027, 2030 with extended service from SAP. So it's not nearly as compelling. And that's okay, because in the way that Blue Prism views this challenge is actually threefold, right? So it creates three separate opportunities. Not only do we have the migration opportunity, but we also have operations. We have operations before and after migration, which in reality is where our customers are going to get the vast majority of the value from Blue Prism RPA. Because once you've automated your interactions within your operations, then it will help make your migration smoother, right? And then once you have migrated, you can take those same objects and put them into your new environment, right? And still have the same automated operations. And it's important to note that what we're talking about is a functionality that's actually available to an extent, available right now to our existing Blue Prism clients, right? Well, one of the things that we're leveraging is the SAP identification mode, otherwise known as the SAP spy mode within Blue Prism, that leverages the built-in scripting ability for SAP's SAP GUI, or graphical user interface, which can be used in the legacy SAP ERP as well as the S4HANA, the more modern S4HANA version.
Yeah, and I think that's what I'm hearing across the board. I know with all of this COVID-19 and stimulus package and everything like that, I know that companies now are really, working hard and fast to get solutions in place. But it doesn't mean that just because you get a solution for, getting the SBA loans approved really quickly, then at the end of that project, that's not the end of the use of the digital workers. That then can carry on to, become business as usual, which just frees up talent. And I mean, there's a multitude of the ripple effect in that reusability. So it's really beautiful. But like you said, there's kind of that initiating event that is causing people to look at this solution now, I think. And then it's exciting to see where we're going to go, out of this. Necessity is the mother of invention, as they say. I feel like I say that every day.
And Lisa, I think you're absolutely right. This is the reason why we call it digital talent, because it can be reused and repurposed for all kinds of things. Just like when you hire a human being to come to work for you, they're going to get additional skills. They may get promoted. They may be moved to different departments for different responsibilities. And so as humans, we grow in our experience and knowledge. And the vision is that the digital talent, our digital worker here at Blue Prism, will also grow in experience, knowledge, so that they can, in essence, be promoted to working in different parts of the organization, not just for migrations, not just SAP. It could be an Oracle application. It could be a Salesforce application. So the point of this is it gives business continuity and continuous plan for business to manage risk, especially in very extraordinary situations that we're in today. So that's the message I want to make sure that our listeners are really hearing and the value point.
Yeah, I love it. And it's a great transition, I think, to our next point that we were going to cover, just around, does digital talent steal my job? And right now, and I'll let you guys go into this more, but we're seeing that is not the case, and that also it's just opening so much up. So do we want to talk about maybe getting into, first of all, does digital talent steal my job? And then I know that Meredith, you had talked about a use case around HR.
So when it comes to the digital worker, AI in general is coming to take people's jobs, I think there's a fear base here, because most humans that don't understand the technology, there's a fear. There's a sentiment that says, this technology is going to take my job. I'm not going to have anything else I'm going to be able to do, which is quite the opposite. This technology over time, over history, has always been an enabler. If you think about the plow was developed to be able to create more efficient means of farming. The printing press, perfect way to expand knowledge base to the commoner. And so when we start to look at the capability of digital talent, it is to augment, and it's been designed to augment, the capability of a human being. And so one of the unique things, specifically from the feedback from our customers under this COVID-19 scenario that we've been in, and today I think is April the 22nd, there has been documented proof that because digital workers are actually out there processing small business loans, that we have a hardcore number right now of 100,000 people's jobs we're saving on a daily basis. And this is very, very exciting, because if you would take humans to process these loans, there would have been a net loss of 100,000 people's job every day. So these are hard and fast numbers. And so this is how we're applying it to everyday usage.
Yes, and then there's digital workers and digital talent that can do things that humans simply can't do. I'm going to use a hypothetical example, and it has nothing to do with taking someone's job away. But this is a hypothetical example that we thought of as we were coming up with things. And if you think about when a child goes missing, there's an Amber Alert. At least in the United States, there's an Amber Alert put out where everybody gets a text message, look for a black Silverado with this license plate, because they're looking for that child, and speed is what you need. So if you think about, okay, well, what if you had a digital worker that helped look for this child, and you had a series of cameras, and you knew that you were looking for a black Silverado. And so what you could do is you could put a digital worker in charge of watching thousands of cameras to see if there's ever a black Silverado that comes up in some of those cameras. And then they can start pinging and pushing out information where maybe they see this truck. So you're talking about, and this is just one hypothetical solution to something that's heartbreaking. But if we could put a digital worker onto that, it's something that a human couldn't possibly do. And so when you think about that and you expand that, a digital worker can watch a lot of video at one time, They can synthesize a lot that comes from photographs, anything having to do from cancer detection. And when you have a digital worker doing that, it goes beyond even the capability of a human. So there's no replacement of it, but what it does is it augments what we're able to do.
I'd like to add on to that, because that absolutely what Meredith just shared was an idea that we did work through, right? We put together a digital worker that reviewed different images and applied machine learning to determine if there was an accident. And from there, we could apply a model that determined if emergency services was required, right? That's something that we absolutely can do. Now, there's going to be some of the audience that will say, but there's purpose-built solutions for that, right? And that's absolutely true. But what we're talking about is not necessarily, there's a few different things here, right? Number one, we're talking about digital workers putting a solution together very quickly to solve a problem, right? Number two, that the solution that comes out can move forward to a purpose-built solution, and you can serve in place of the purpose-built solution in the interim, right? And number three, bringing it back to the jobs, right? I used to work in a role where I was developing shoulder to shoulder with the people that were doing another job, right? And every day they would joke and say, "Hey, did you automate at my job yet?" Yeah, not yet. Next week. But that's actually how they felt. They said, we're really afraid that you are automating us out of a job, and it's a real fear. At the same time, back to Chieng's point, this is the progression of this is an evolution, right? And we have jobs today that did not exist literally just a few years ago. I feel that is going to continue, and we will see new roles for humans in the future, and digital workers will take on the heavy lifting, if you will.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think Meredith and I talked actually a couple months ago just about how, and speaking of the evolution, it's like we can't really quite even imagine what's possible, because it's like as people start to understand the capabilities, then instead of just thinking, I have this job opening, do I want to fill it with a human worker or a digital worker? Or maybe, these three, can we take some of what each of them were doing and have digital talent fulfill that? But now as a manager, as a thought leader, or whatever, within your organization, you start thinking about what is possible that we could do. Like you said, that example, Meredith, about the checking the cameras, what are tasks that we could do that we didn't even think about hiring a person for, but we go straight to digital talent. So.
Absolutely. And it becomes part of the circle of solutions that you have, and it's a way that I think that actually HR and recruiting should start thinking about it in this kind of perspective as well. So right now, recruiters, their assignment is to go out and find people that match jobs. Yeah. And there's the manager submits something to HR, and HR goes and looks for somebody that does payroll or does these kinds of things. And I think what would be very interesting, and I'm going to encourage Blue Prism to do this, is start right now. When we talk about digital workers and digital talent, a lot of times we go to the IT folks in the company and finance. That's where traditionally it starts. And maybe it starts like that with every company until you kind of have a way to evangelize this through the company. But it would be very interesting to have a world, and we're probably going to get to this point, where digital workers become so ubiquitous within the workforce, and that an HR manager, hiring manager, a recruiter gets some roles and responsibilities and says, I need to fill this. Or they get 5 of them and they say, okay, these 2 can be a biological person, and then these 3 could be digital talent out of the box. Or they need a temporary worker. How interesting would it be if Blue Prism or perhaps another company, like Chieng was saying earlier, you have a library of digital talent, just like you would have a roster of different talent, biological talent, and people. And so let's say that Blue Prism happens to have this roster. We're already creating this library of digital talent. So what if a company comes to us and says, okay, I need, for Christmas season, I need this many digital workers to fulfill these positions. And what's interesting is it doesn't necessarily it's not necessarily an IT problem only or a finance problem only. It becomes a recruiting solution. And what I would like to see is for Blue Prism to go out to the HR community, the SHRM or SHRM, and talk to HR professionals and recruiting professionals and say, you fill talent to a position. And right now you are limited to humans. What if you were able to understand what digital workers and digital talent offers? Then what could you bring to a company? And I think what you bring is a whole host of solutions, and it changes the conversation because it comes in a different way. And when you start to look at it that way, you start to change the company and the way they do work from the inside.
Awesome. Thank you, Meredith. So the next question I want to cover is, how do you guys think that the world since the whole coronavirus pandemic has changed the digital workforce landscape?
So I'd like to start that one off, Lisa, if that's okay. I think that the world is, I think it's undeniable that the world has changed substantially due to COVID-19. And one of the more compelling things that I saw recently was actually just an image that had asked the question, what drove your digital transformation, right? And there were 3 check boxes. The first one was CEO, second one was CIO, and the third one was COVID. With a check.
That's awesome. I didn't know about that.
Yeah, and I saw that, and I think it may have been CB Insights or something like that. I saw that, and I was like, wow, that is so on the money, because we're seeing all of a sudden a number of new and existing clients flock to us saying, hey, we need digital workers to be able to help handle the volume. And while we're seeing that things on a daily basis that are tremendously impacting our daily lives, the price of oil going below zero and concerns about shortages, at the same time, we're seeing 4.4 million people, I think today, applied for unemployment, right? And these are huge volumes that people aren't designed, the systems that people designed aren't ready to handle. And so we're seeing new and existing customers come to us and ask us for help. And we're giving out, I think that John Turkov, our CCO, he said something about we donated hundreds of licenses and thousands of professional services hours to be able to help with COVID-19 and help alleviate some of the new pressures that came up in our world. So the world's changing, and digital workers are right there to help.
Yeah, and to add to that, there was, and those are exceptional examples, Nick. There was one of our heaviest users of digital workers is in Canada. It's a bank, and the head of that department, she described that they're working 7 days a week, 24 hours a day, just to be able to program the digital workers to handle the volume of what they have coming in. And, she kind of joked, well, do you guys have anything pre-built? And the answer is that is the direction that we're going in, because when you have all this, and it's, it's something unforeseen. No one saw a pandemic coming if you were in the middle of 2019. And no one saw that this was coming so quickly and then how it was going to change our world so drastically. And I think when you talk about drastic changes, bottlenecks, volume, what you're talking about are things that cannot be handled by just humans alone, and that when you rely and you count on a digital workforce and digital talent, especially, because remember, digital talent cuts down the development time and gets you closer to where you want to be, to being able to get a digital worker up and running. So when you talk about all of these different things that could happen in the universe, the quickest way to adjust to that is with digital talent.
Perfect. So anything to add, Chieng?
A couple of closing thoughts before we leave. I think when we talk about a world pre and post COVID-19, when I look out into the future of 12, 18, 24 months from now, there's going to be several major shifts. Number one, people are going to be working remote. Number two, products and services are more easily available online and digitized. And then number three, companies out there that do survive this pandemic on all these uncertainty will be a lot stronger if they implement contingency plans and scalability plans that incorporates digital talent. I think this is a comment that the Innovation Center is built around, is that the next currency is not about money or price of gold or oil. I think the next currency is the capability to create new innovative product leveraging creativity. So in our minds here in the Innovation Center, creativity is our currency. This is what is a driving factor of innovation. And this is how we at Blue Prism is pushing the envelope to provide this to our customers and partners.
Great. And then finally, I'd love to know what is next for the innovation team.
So there's things that I can talk about, and there's some things that I can't talk about. Just imagine a world where this type of responsibility. I'm going to take a quote from Spider-Man: "With great power comes great responsibility." And so, everything that we do specifically inside the Innovation Center is to do two or three things: to better the experience of mankind, to ensure that disruption is equitable, and then ultimately to share the knowledge that we learn. And then that's whatever that might be as far as our new programs, new initiatives, those three things we'll continue to honor.
For those sharp-eyed listeners, keep your eyes peeled, because we are out there in the communities. We're out there in YouTube. There are materials out there that you already have access to that you just don't know about.
Great point. All right. Well, with that, I think we will wrap it up here. I want to thank you guys so much, Chieng, Nick, and Meredith. This has been a great conversation, and I can't wait for our audience to hear it. So if anyone has follow-up questions or would like to connect with you, I think generally we suggest that they reach out to you on LinkedIn. And so if you guys are okay with that, we'll go ahead and put those links in the show notes just to make things easier for you guys and for our audience.
Absolutely.
Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Great. Well, thank you again so much, all of you, for being on the show. To our audience, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed hearing from our innovation team. And with that, we will say have a great day, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you so much,
Thank
Lisa.
You. Yeah.
Thanks for having us.
Bye-bye.
Thanks all.
You've been listening to Generation Digital Workforce. If you want to hear more about RPA, AI, and other cognitive technologies that are shaping the future of work, join us next time as we continue to go deeper on these topics with industry innovators and experts. To make sure you never miss a future episode, subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player. And if you've liked what you heard today, please leave us a review. It's one of the best ways to help more people find valuable content. For show notes and more info, visit us at blueprism.com/podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Until next time.